Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Travis Carlin. I'm the Director of Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Arts for the City of Encinitas. The cities of Encinitas and Solana Beach, along with the San Diego County Sheriff's Department, welcome you to this virtual meeting regarding e-bike safety and laws around e-bikes. As you may be aware, e-bikes have become very popular here in Southern California. Therefore, it is important for e-bike riders and motorists to learn what's allowed and what's applicable law as it relates to bicycles and more specifically e-bikes. Tonight, I'm excited to introduce Deputy David Drake from the San Diego County Sheriff's Department to present. Deputy Drake has been with the Sheriff's Department for about 12 years. He's worked in Court Services Department as a patrol deputy and the traffic deputy. The last 4 years, he's worked as a motorcycle deputy with his current assignment at the North Coastal Station. Deputy Drake is also a member of the Sheriff's Reconstructive Team that investigates serious and fatal traffic collisions countywide. Captain Taft is also accompanying David Drake tonight from the Sheriff's Department. So welcome to Captain Taft. We will follow Deputy Drake's presentation with a question and answer period tonight. We will use the question and answer feature at the bottom of the screen where you can type in your questions on this platform. We recommend reserving any questions until after the presentation, as some of your questions may be answered during Deputy Drake's presentation. After the question and answer period tonight, Kevin Barros from the San Diego County Bicycle Coalition will wrap up the meeting with some educational opportunities and resources. Tonight's forum is scheduled for about an hour and a half, and we will get to as many questions as we can during that time period. I will now turn the meeting over to Deputy Drake.
Okay, Travis, thanks. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Well, hi, folks. I wish I could see all your smiling faces out there, but I can't because we're doing the Zoom, which is great. I'm used to probably meeting a lot of you doing live events like the Start Smart class. So I've met a lot of you in person, and I'm used to doing presentations in person, not so much at Zoom. So please forgive me if I trip over some of my words here. But what I'm going to do now is start sharing my screen here. So my presentation, we can see. All right, and let me get this out of the way. All right, okay, so here's the presentation. Like he said, I'm Deputy David Drake with the Sheriff's Department. I'm currently a motorcycle officer, and I'm assigned to the Sheriff's Department in North Coastal. So I work in the cities of Encinitas, Del Mar, and Solana Beach. And, you know, over the last year, e-bikes have really taken off, and I think they're a great thing. People really enjoy them because they can get some exercise, but they can also go further than they normally might be able to go, and also handle hills a little bit better. But with the increase in e-bike traffic, there's also been an increase in complaints regarding e-bikes. So I wanted to start kind of with this education in this forum here today in order to kind of help bring everybody up to speed on what the laws are regarding e-bikes, what's allowed, what's not allowed, how they differ from just solely human power bikes and other items like that. So our agenda for tonight is basically going to start off pretty simple. It's going to be what is an e-bike or an electric bike, typically referred to as an e-bike, the types of e-bikes, where you can ride, age limitations, helmets as well, although I would recommend everybody always wear a helmet regardless of age, because the head is an important organ in your body, and we hate to see it get hurt, and a helmet's really going to go a long way to protecting you in the unfortunate case that you do get an accident. We'll talk about the rules of the road, a little bit about enforcement and fines. I really want to save some time for your questions. And then also one of the most important things regarding e-bikes, especially since I've been working with the schools recently, is the parental role and responsibilities. So, type of e-bikes, and I'm sorry if the top of this is cut off a little bit. It is on mine, but in any case, a class 1 e-bike, in essence, is an electronic bike. It's pedal assist only, no throttle. So basically, when you get on the bike and you have the settings going, if you pedal the bike, it'll help you pedal or help the bike go faster as long as you're pedaling, but there's no throttle. So you can't just stop pedaling and just keep going any faster because there's no throttle. So, and those are limited to 20 miles an hour. Manufacturers are required to put the type of class of e-bike on the frame somewhere. Whether they all do or not, I don't know, but most e-bikes I've stopped or I've talked to, generally somewhere on the bike say what type of e-bike they are. So first is class 1, 20 miles an hour. It's pedal assist only and no throttle. All right, so a class 2 e-bike, and this is probably the most common e-bike that I see in Encinitas, including the schools, which in my opinion is really good and really bad depending on the person's experience level. So a class 2 electric bike or a low speed throttle assisted bike is a bicycle equipped with a motor that may be used exclusively to propel the bike and is not capable of providing assistance when the bike reaches 20 miles an hour. So basically, you don't have to pedal. You can get the bike up to 20 miles an hour without even thinking about it. And also to save energy, you can do pedal assist or a combination thereof. And then our class 3 e-bikes are not, they have no throttles. However, you can get those bad boys going up as much as 28 miles an hour. They have no throttle, so you have to pedal to get it going. But we're talking basically as fast, as a car is driving around Encinitas, 20 miles an hour. So there are some limitations that don't exist with the class 1 and class 2 bikes that we'll talk about here in a second. So, riding restrictions. For the most part, e-bikes are human-powered bikes. They're bicycles, just like any other bike. And in most cases, except for that class 3 e-bike that we talked about that can go up to 28 miles an hour, they can go anywhere a human-powered bike can go, unless it's prohibited by code. So if you enter a trail or something, and we have state parks around here, county parks, there'll be a sign there saying whether e-bikes are permitted or not. But in general, an e-bike can go anywhere just a regular non-powered bike can go, which is great because an e-bike really is there just to supplement the riders so that they go further and faster and maybe not get as tired. Now, just to be clear on the class 3 e-bikes, those are the ones that go 28 miles an hour. You may not use those on a bike path. And an example of a bike path, which you can see on your screen here, is basically it's completely isolated from all vehicle traffic. It's not next to a road. There's not really cars driving across it. That is something you cannot use a class 3 e-bike on, because I don't think anybody wants a bike going 28 miles an hour on a shared route with pedestrians and bikes. Okay, so here's a chart. So when you Google types of e-bikes and e-bike restrictions on the internet, you're going to get all kinds of charts. This is one of the better charts that I found. I believe it was either used by permission or created by the San Diego Bike Coalition. I love this chart because it's kind of a snapshot of everything that we've got going on. So just to review, that type 1 e-bike, so that's the one that does not have a throttle, that's pedal assist only. A rider of any age can ride that bike. From what is a reasonable age to start riding a bike, who knows, because that's up to the parent, but we're talking, I've seen 7, 8, and 9-year-olds on a type 1 e-bike. And the restriction is there that if they're 17 and under, they must wear a helmet, and not only wear the helmet, but also have the helmet strapped to where it's not going to fall off if they happen to fall off the bike. And that's an important thing. And that's one of the most common complaints I get, and also one of the most common violations that I address. And that's either no helmet. Usually they'll have the helmet with them and they're not wearing it, or the helmet's not strapped at all. And if the helmet's not strapped, as far as I'm concerned, it's no good. Okay. And those are allowed on any bike class. So anywhere a bike can go, the type 1 e-bikes can go. Type 2 e-bike, kind of the same thing. The restrictions don't change, except there's no pedals with the type 2 e-bike. We've already talked about that. The rules are the same. 17 and under can ride that bike as long as they have a helmet. And then any other age above that doesn't need a helmet, although I'd recommend one. And then the type 3 e-bikes, you must be 16 years old. So basically, if you get on an e-bike and it goes more than 20 miles an hour, you need to be 16 years old. You don't need a driver's license, but you got to be 16 years old. And a helmet is required no matter how old you are. And just to reiterate, those cannot go on the bike paths, for example, like the rail trail. Moving on to the next slide. So bikes, I think, and I would hope everybody here knows that bikes are required to follow the same rules of the road as motor vehicles are. Okay, and I guess you could think of an e-bike as kind of a type of a motor vehicle in essence because it has a motor in it, but it's a bike just like any other bike. So if you're riding an e-bike, you're expected to understand the rules of the road and follow the same rules of the road that cars are required to follow. And that can be tough for a 7, 8, or 9-year-old, or even kids that are older than that. So I do get a little nervous when I see an 8 or 9-year-old rider riding an e-bike when it looks like they're not very experienced. And we'll talk about parental responsibility a little bit later. But what we need to understand is the temptation, or not the temptation, but the thrill of riding these bikes is there because they go fast. You don't have to pedal. So a lot of kids are using these bikes, which is great. It's getting them out of the house, it's getting them in the outdoors. But what they need to understand is they're expected to understand the rules of the road, just like a licensed driver is. So I kind of tailored this to the violations that I see in our city, or some of the complaints I get. Obviously, there's a lot of rules of the road, stop signs, stoplights. Of course, an e-bike, a regular bicycle, or car are required to stop at all stop signs. A lot of times what I see are e-bikes turning right on a red without stopping, or right at a stop sign without stopping. Not a good idea. But here I've put in some of the more common complaints that I get. And obviously e-bikes are required to signal. They don't all have like blinkers and all that on them. So they're required to use hand signals in order to signal their intention and which directions they're going. Same thing with left turns. In order to do a left turn safely, you pretty much need to enter the roadway and get over to the left turn pocket where you can legally make a left turn. I mean, I've seen e-bike riders who are all the way over to the right side of the road, and they're going to cut over several lanes of traffic to turn left. Finally got that out. So in any case, that's not a good idea. So what I would recommend is new riders, inexperienced riders, or people who don't feel comfortable entering the lane of traffic or coming out of the bike lanes, I would recommend that they stop at the intersection, get off their bike, and they can use the pedestrian cross signal to cross their bike if they don't feel comfortable entering the flow of traffic to make a left turn. So that's one thing that I've seen, and that would help. If somebody's not comfortable doing that, then they should get off their bike and walk across just like they're a pedestrian. Bikes are required to ride as close to the right curb as practical, or in the bike lane. You can leave the bike lane, of course, to pass other riders or avoid obstacles, but you need to make sure you don't cut anybody off, other bikes, other cars. We already talked about you may leave the bike lane or into the roadway to turn left. In order to safely do so, you either need to walk across at the crosswalk or enter the roadway to do it safely. And then, like you might have seen motorcycles do or bikes do, weaving in and out of traffic across different lanes, in and around, it's prohibited. It's something, you're not going at a speed where it's safe to just go in and out of the roadway. Now, you must use a bike lane if it's available, unless you're traveling the same speed as other traffic. Okay, we have the Sharrow lanes in Encinitas. I totally understand that a lot of drivers of cars don't understand what the Sharrow lanes are, and I'm doing my best to get that education out there. But what it comes down to, if there's no bike lane, whether or not that Sharrow marker is there, bikes need to understand that they should ride as close to the right as possible, but that's not necessarily all the way to the right, because you want these cars to be able to see you. So that's another important point that I wanted to get out there. All right, some of the more common vehicle codes that I see in Encinitas regarding e-bikes is basically, we talked about that class 3 e-bike that goes over 28 miles an hour. If you're under the age of 16, you're not allowed to operate that. And it's pretty obvious, because we'll see, a 11 or 12-year-old going 28 miles an hour. It's pretty easy to pick up, and we're going to have a little chat with them. Maybe give them a warning, write a ticket, call their parents, whatever it takes. 21211, no stopping or parking a bike on a bike path. You don't want to block a bike path or a bike lane. That's not a good idea. Of course, helmets, we talked about that. No helmet if you're 17 or under is a violation. But as we talked about, those class 3 e-bikes that go 28 miles an hour, everyone must wear a helmet. Riding the wrong way, all bikes are required to ride the same way as traffic, okay? Sidewalks, I don't know if that's on this slide or another one, but sidewalks are meant for pedestrians. They're not meant for bike riding, especially in a business district. We do not want to see e-bikes on the sidewalk in a business district, especially downtown Encinitas, Solana Beach, Del Mar. There's people on the sidewalk, and that is not a place for e-bikes to be. Okay, and then the biggest violation I see, especially around school time, is passengers on an e-bike. You may have a passenger on an e-bike, but the e-bike has to be designed for one. They can't be sitting on the cargo holder on the back. They need to be sitting on a seat that's designed for a passenger. Okay, so parental responsibilities. The most important thing, if I get anything out of this forum today, the most important thing is for those new riders or those young riders, is before the parents let them go on those e-bikes, that they get the amount of instruction that the parents think they need before they're let loose on those. And in fact, riding bikes or e-bikes or regular bikes with their parents or guardian or whomever to give them the right instruction before they're let loose on those e-bikes is going to be probably make the biggest impact on their safety and their ability to ride without getting into bad situations. They need to learn how to ride these things. They're different. The faster a bike goes, the less time you have to react to the situation. Perception reaction time is 0.75 seconds. So it basically takes 3/4 of a second to notice there's a problem in front of you. It takes another 3/4 of a second to react to that situation. So you're already at 1.5 seconds before you can do anything about it. And the faster you're going on a bicycle, the less time you're going to have to react to a pedestrian in front of you, or a hole, or another car, another bike stopping in front of you. You want to make sure it's the right bike for the rider. I don't think I recommend that a 10 or 11-year-old rider is on a class 2 e-bike with a throttle so they can just hit it and go. I would want to make sure that the parents have covered that instruction and modeling and that good ridership first before they let them loose on a bike with a throttle. A helmet, of course. Lighting is so important, and lighting is just not for nighttime. Lighting is for daytime. Having a nice bright light on the front, a nice red light on the back, some high visibility clothing, which might be tough to get some of the kids to wear, especially the junior hires, because it seems like they all want to wear black. But in any case, whatever you can do to make that bike be seen and make that rider be seen is just a plus for safety all around. And something that's also overlooked is these e-bikes, they're heavier, they go faster. So unfortunately, when they do crash, as before, if they crashed into a car, they might not have caused any damage. Well, now they might. Even if the person's okay, if this e-bike that weighs 100, 200 pounds more than a regular bike crashes into the car, it's going to do some damage. So how does one pay for that? Not an insurance broker. Don't play one on TV. I don't even know how to cover insurance for an e-bike crash. But those are things I would want people to think about before they ride one themselves or have their kids riding them. And of course, passengers. If you're the operator of that bike, you're also responsible for your passengers. So I would hope that you have the right type of bike for passengers, and also you're a responsible rider to keep your passengers safe. Okay, that's all for me on the presentation part. I'm happy to review anything you think I missed, or I'm ready for questions.
Thank you, Deputy Drake. So we'll enter into the question and answer portion of the meeting. You can use the question and answer feature on the bottom of your screen to ask questions. To ensure that we allow for proper time for all the questions being asked tonight, We will not be reading the comments, but you can see them on your screen. So people can start entering questions and I can read those out loud. So the first question, Deputy Drake, is will you start ticketing children or kids?
Already have. I don't like to do it, and I just give warning the first couple times, but especially with the helmets, I'm kind of had it with that. We've been giving enough. They've been getting enough warnings, whether it's school or out and about. So if I see somebody riding out without a helmet, generally they're gonna get a ticket. So yes.
All right, thank you. The next question is, where online can we find the rules of the road to go over with our kids?
Okay, that is a great question. And that's so easy to do because if you just Google rules of the road, bicycle, California, you're going to find tons of resources. The rules of the road are the same as for cars. So San Diego Bike Coalition has some great resources, and the city of Encinitas and Solana Beach both have information on their website. There's not different traffic laws for bikes. So if you just go with the ones for the cars, it's right there, what you need.
The next question, Deputy, is are earbuds or phones allowed while riding?
Okay. Earbuds, that's another great question. Earbuds, you can only have them in one ear. There's no law that currently says that you can't use a cell phone while you're riding a bike. However, if you're traveling too fast, it's possible you could get a ticket, but I wouldn't recommend it. There's no law against it. But certainly if you're going too fast, you could be ticketed for going too fast because you're using the phone and not paying attention.
All right, thank you. Would the department have a class for kids to attend?
I just did a class at the Dugueno Middle School. So I believe a lot of the schools, now that they're back in person, are setting up bike radios through the San Diego Bike Coalition. And I know they can speak to this at the end because they will be talking about educational resources. But yes, I think it's going to start coming more and more through the schools.
Thank you. And then the next question is, what can we do when a car is blocking the bike lane?
I'm going to assume they're meant a parked car is blocking the bike lane. Well, certainly you can call us and we'll come out and address the issue, find out whether it's a disabled vehicle. I don't like when cars park in bike lane. Obviously, this is a heavily traveled area by bikes. So if there's a sign there that says no parking in bike lanes, call us and we'll come out and address the issue.
All right. The next one is, I'm confused. I've been studying to be a school bus driver and driving instructor and know that you cannot operate a vehicle unless you're 15 and a half and can prove extenuating circumstances. So are these allowed because they're on a bike path?
I think what they're asking is, why don't you need a driver's license to ride e-bikes? And the legislature wanted to get these bikes out because they're green. They get people outdoors again, and done correctly, that they're operated correctly, they're very safe. So you don't need a license for them is a short answer to that question.
Okay. And then the next question is there anything we should do when we see e-bike riders in non-compliance with the laws?
Yeah, I would think if the situation dictates and it's appropriate, it never hurts to give somebody a reminder, although that can lead to an argument too. So I don't necessarily want you to do that. But certainly if you see some ridiculous violation or an e-bike weaving in and out of traffic, call the sheriff's department and report it, especially if there's a lot of riders together and they're just creating a problem as a whole. Call and report it, and we'll try and get over there and see what we can do about it. So yes, you can call the sheriff's department and report it.
Okay, the next one is, do e-bikes max at 20 miles per hour or can they go faster downhill?
They can go faster downhill. The manufacturers have done a pretty good job of regulating the speed controls on those, but people are smart, kids are smart, and they figured out ways of overriding those safety features. So yes, they can go faster than 20. And that would be something that's awfully tough for us to enforce from a speed perspective. But yes, it is possible if their gravity's pushing them, they can go faster than 20.
Okay. The next one is St. John's in the AM and Rhodes School in the PM are blocking the bike lane by lots of cars. Will you be enforcing no stopping in the bike lane? What should a bike rider do? Remember, traffic speed limits are 45 miles an hour and there is a lot of traffic.
Okay. Yeah, I'm aware of the St. John's situation, and there has to be a balance between people being able to get their kids safely to school, but also the bikes to be able to ride. So I think in that case, that not only the cars need to just pay attention, but the bikes also. If people are parked in the bike lane and getting out of their cars, that's something we'll address. But if they're just dropping off their kids, in most cases, unless they're creating a huge problem, we're just going to do the best we can to cruise by there as often as possible and give some good reminders.
All right. Are cars allowed at school pickup and drop off to wait in the bike lane?
If it says no stopping in the bike lane, you can't stop. So I'm not sure if it's a bike lane on the road and you're going to pick up your kids at a school, and as long as you're moving along, even if it's slowly, that's okay.
Okay. Can you explain how shared bike lanes or car lanes should work?
Okay, so we're talking about, I believe we're talking about the share lanes. So there are portions of the road, namely on South Coast Highway 101, where the road may be 2 lanes, but the lane to the right where bikes should be riding is too narrow to safely put a bike lane in there. It could be because of parked cars, it could be just because of the way the roadway design is, but basically you can't fit a bike lane in there and expect a car to be able to safely go around. So in this case, in a share lane, you'll see a sign, you'll see a marking in the road and say bikes may use full lane. And the reason that's there is so that the bike can get out there kind of towards the middle, make itself known so the car sees them and doesn't hit them. That's the purpose of the share lane. You don't have to have a share lane marker in there to be able to use the full lane as a bike. If it doesn't have a bike lane, you use the roadway as safely as you think you can.
Is there a bike registration system to help recover in case of theft?
There is, and the name escapes me right now, but hopefully my bike coalition partner at the end can remind me what that is. But there is a couple third-party bike registration services where you can get your bike loaded in there ahead of time in case somebody walks away with it. And of course, if somebody does ever walk away with your bike, make sure you have the serial number handy so that we can get it in the system for you.
All right. This one says, thank you, Officer Drake. Can mopeds under 49 cc's with a valid California license ride in the bike lanes or bike routes?
A moped under 49 cc's?
Under 49 cc's.
Yeah, yes, they can ride in a standard bike lane.
All right. Can someone under 15 and a half years old have a bike that goes over a speed of 20 miles per hour?
What was the age again? 15 and a half?
15 and a half years.
No.
All right.
So basically, if 20 miles an hour over, you have to be over 16 to be able to ride a bike that goes faster than 20 miles an hour, an electric bike.
All right. The next one is, when you cite someone, what is the citation? What if someone has multiple citations? Are parents notified?
Okay, so the way it works with bike citations, they don't necessarily, depending on the violation, but most violations don't carry the same weight as if you were to receive a citation in a vehicle with your license. So when you get a ticket for a bike, it's handled as a bike ticket, the fine is less, and except for certain violation, there's no point assigned to your driving record. But I will warn many riders on one issue, and that's driving under the influence on an e-bike. It's not necessarily treated the same as a motor vehicle DUI, although if you seriously injure somebody while drunk on a bike, it could possibly be handled the same way we would with a motor vehicle. It just depends on the circumstances. But for young riders who decide to smoke some marijuana or knowingly take too many pills or use alcohol and operate an e-bike, I got news for you. If they get in trouble and they get cited or arrested for basically a DUI on an e-bike, it'll delay them the ability to get their license for 1 year.
Okay. Can you pass a bike when in the shared lane?
I think that would be awfully difficult to do because in the lanes, no, not in the same lane, not safely. Not unless they're all the way over to the right. If they're all the way over to the right and you think you can pass safely, that's totally fine, but you must give a bike 3 feet when you go around them. So that means if you're staying in the same lane, there's got to be 3 feet between you and the bike next to you when you go by.
Let's see. What about bike routes?
E-bikes are permitted on bike routes. In fact, you can ride an e-bike anywhere that a bike is permitted unless there's a sign that says you can't, or it's one of those class 3 bikes that goes 28 miles an hour. Those cannot be on a bike path.
There is no speed limit for e-bikes if you can pedal beyond the point where the assist kicks out, except of course any posted speed limits applicable to vehicles. Can you comment on that?
Correct. The bikes would be subject to the same speed limit that's posted in the road.
Okay. All right, thank you. And how about mopeds on bike routes?
Mopeds are permitted on class 3 bike routes, yes. They cannot be on a bike path and they can't be in a shared separated lane like we have down at Cardiff State Beach. They can't be to the right of those cones in that separated bikeway.
All right. All right, while we're waiting for a couple, we got through things quite quickly. So I'm just going to read some of the comments since we do have time.
Okay.
And then if we have more questions that pop up, I can read those as well. So we do have one comment that says many bike riders do not understand the intent of a Shero as well as motorists or choose not to ride them.
Okay, yeah, I would agree. Shero lane could be confusing for new bike riders or for new, and it was confusing for me even as a new deputy. But what it comes down to is a Shero lane marker and signs are there for roads that can't fit a bike lane. And those markers are simply there to remind the bicycles and the motorists that could be bikes in the roadway and you need to watch out for them. So at the simplest terms, if the road's too narrow, there could be a bike in it, especially around here where bike riding is so enjoyed.
Right. I have another question that came in. It says, are you having any trouble giving citations to kids since they don't have driver's license which identify who they are?
No, most kids tell us the truth. It's usually pretty obvious when they don't, because we ask them a lot about their school they go to, and once we get enough questions out of them, we're usually able to tell whether they're giving us the right information or not. So generally, no, most kids are cooperative. Like I said, I don't write a ton of tickets to kids on bikes, but when I see the same person repeatedly and lately that the helmets, just obviously the message hasn't gone out there and it's time for enforcement on those. Yeah, we're giving them tickets and they're telling us who they are. And plus we call their parents generally too on scene, just to kind of, not to get the kid in any more trouble, but just to explain to the parents too what we saw firsthand, just in case the message doesn't get home correctly.
Thank you. All right, so I have a couple more comments here so while we're waiting for questions. San Diego County Bike Coalition has a great little booklet with road rules and now a new e-bike safety rules too. And Christine Schindler asked to reach out for a copy to her and she provided her email address here, Christine Kristine, Schindler, SCHINDLER7 @gmail.com, or stop by the Encinitas Library and/or City Hall, Parks and Recreation, and then they are also at the Community Center. And we worked collaboratively with the Encinitas Bike Coalition to get those out. And I believe they also have those in Solana Beach. The next question is, are cars allowed at school pickup or drop off to wait in the bike lane? I think we did answer that one. All right. Next question is, do you get any pushback from parents when you give a kid a citation or a warning?
Well, usually when their parents are with them, and what I've noticed lately is it's usually a big group of riders. It'll be e-bike riders, and it's a whole family. And it's usually the adult that runs the stop sign first, and I stop them and I talk to them. So usually there's not a lot of pushback. Most parents love the idea of e-bikes, and they just want to get their speeds up, their kids up to speed and keep them safe. So I don't really get a lot of pushback, no.
Here's another comment. I really appreciate the sheriffs presenting tonight and collaborating with us on school education. We need to educate more parents as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, the parental responsibility, I probably blabbered it a little bit when I did my presentation, but that's really the most important thing here. And I know parents always want to do right by their children's safety. But there's just these e-bikes are just getting in and around and out so quickly that some parents, their kids may be riding e-bikes and they don't even know it. So the more we can get the word out that, hey, listen, an e-bike, it's just a regular bike. It goes a little bit faster at times, but understand you need to follow the rules of the road. And if the new rider or the child is not familiar with the rules of the road, well, before they ride out on their own, they need to get some education from either the bike coalition, from their parents, or all the above, because you got a bike going 20 miles an hour downhill. You want to make sure you know what you're doing.
All right. There's a couple comments about the bike index. It's bikeindex.org. And there's another comment that says bikeindex.org is a great place to register your bike to guard against theft. Add a picture of you standing next to your bike. Yeah,
I think that was the one that Christine Schindler clued me in on yesterday. It's always a good idea to take pictures and have your serial number of your items at the simplest level, but anywhere you can register your bike as well will certainly help us if we need to try and recover it. Then they're expensive, so lock them up. The thicker the lock, the better.
All right. The next question is, are e-bikes on the sidewalks okay at certain times?
Yes. Okay. It's a question we get a lot. But there is no, unless there's a municipal code that prevents a bike from being on a sidewalk, a bike can be there. However, they obviously have to give the right of way to pedestrians. So in Encinitas, Solana Beach, and Del Mar, you cannot ride a bike in a business district on the sidewalk. In residential areas, and I believe it goes for Solana Beach as well, there can be a bike on a sidewalk, but they need to be going, low and slow.
Have you been seeing more accidents with e-bikes than bicycles, more in total?
No, in fact, it's a great question. And we did go back, the sheriff's department went back, and I don't have the exact report in front of me at the moment, but we did go back and we found that we had very few e-bike related accidents in the last 4 years. We're talking a handful per year. And in fact, and in most cases, and like with regular bike accidents, human bike accidents, about 80% of the time the car's at fault. But at the same time, it doesn't matter whose fault it is when you get hurt. So bicyclists got to do everything they can to make sure they're seen and use all the resources and the roadway designs that are out there to help keep them safe.
We got a comment and a question. My friend and I are creating a fun educational course geared toward teens and tweens, and we would love to have you review it. May we contact you?
Of course, I'll provide my contact info at the end here so that you can contact me via email. I'd love to review it. I mean, I do have a lot of training that I already put on and I'm already scheduled for different schools, but I have no problem reviewing something. And if one of us can get over there to help you with it, we're all for it.
All right. Do you collect data about bike collisions and whether it was a bike versus an e-bike?
This is the first year that, okay, let me back up. So the traffic collision reporting system that we use is managed by the California Highway Patrol. And so in the simplest form, this is the first year they've put an actual e-bike checkbox for us on the forms that we use to report accidents. So we're not going to start having that data till after this year.
Okay. You mentioned Start Smart classes earlier. What is this, please?
Start Smart are for new teenage drivers. Generally, they take the class before they get their driver's permit or before they get their license, and it talks all about peer pressure, driving under the influence, best practices for new drivers. And it's actually required by most schools to be able to park in the student parking. You just may not have heard about it because in the last year and a half, because of COVID, we haven't been having the classes. But if you go to the sheriff's website, sdsheriff.net, and look for Start Smart, it'll give you a good idea of what the class is. And then you can just start watching there for the dates to pop up again.
Thank you. This one is a little bit a long one. I've been pleasantly surprised at noticing that kids are learning to ride better despite all the valid complaints on social media. Practice makes perfect. This generation is growing up with a different idea how they might get around for short trips. And these educational events and things sponsored by the Bike Coalition in our cities are accelerating their learning experience.
Correct. Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, most of the kids' comments on the bike rodeo I did yesterday at Dugueno is, you know, it's a green way to get places. It's a more efficient way. It gets me out of the front of the TV screen. That's why, you know, I love e-bikes and there's days where I hate them. It just depends on the calls we have coming in. But if you really break it down, there's not a lot of difference between a regular bike and an e-bike other than the ability to go somewhere without having to pedal your little feet off.
Great. The next question is, who is the agency that requires and tracks the Start Smart training?
It's tracked. You're given a certificate when you complete it. The CHP started the course, but it's paid for by the Office of Traffic Safety. So the Office of Traffic Safety would be the ones that collect all the data on the courses. But as an individual, a municipality or county or state entity, we keep how many people went to the course and who completed it.
Thank you. How can the California Highway Patrol bike collision and accident tracking data be accessed by zip code? Is it accurate and up to date?
That is a great question. I can't answer that, but I do know if you go to the CHP website and you look for the keyword SWITTers.
You know how to spell that?
Yeah, statewide integrated traffic reporting system. So SW, statewide, SWTR, statewide traffic reporting system. Just put it in Google, it'll find it.
All right, great, thanks. Is riding on the back of an e-bike okay?
Good question. Yes and no. If the bike's not designed for two people, then no. It'll be pretty obvious if there's a second seat that's integrated there for a passenger. And if there's a child under 40 pounds, they also need to be restrained to the seat as well with a buckle or a seatbelt or a strap or something, or an appropriate seat. So no passengers on e-bikes unless they're designed for it. And most of the e-bikes that I've seen are designed for passengers. So just a little hint from Deputy Drake, if you're buying a bike for a first-time rider, especially if they're young, maybe you don't get one that's designed for passengers.
All right, I have a couple of comments. Thank you for putting this event on. Super appreciate it, Deputy Drake and the City of Encinitas. We'll also include
You're
Solana.
welcome. Thank you.
And then another one that says, nice job, Officer Drake. You made it simple and easy to understand. Well done. Another one, thank you for putting on this event. Very useful. All right. Is there a link where all the e-bike laws are stated?
Well, it's the same bike laws. So what I do is I usually go to the city of Encinitas, and then there's a website there for e-bikes and bicycling safety, and all the most common laws are stated there. Like I said, there's no specific laws for bikes other than where they can ride and where they can't ride. It's the same rules of the road as for a car.
All right. All right, and then I just have a couple of comments that are in the comments during the give people access to everything. And most crash, the person who's commenting says most crashes lag about a year, and that's where the crashes are reported. And then there's just a couple other comments with some other resources. And then I do have one other one that says, we value your service, keeping us safe and law and order. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me just give you I'll give you my email address now. If you guys have any, cool documents you want me to review or any cool trainings you know about, feel free to send them to me. My email address is David, common spelling, so DAVID .Drake, DRAKE, at sdsheriff.org. So SD Sam David sheriff.org.
All right, great. I'll give it just a couple seconds to see if anybody has any closing questions before we move on. And I'll just leave those. There's a couple comments with just some resources up there, so I'll leave that up as well. I just wanted to also mention, and I'll turn my video on so you can actually see me speak as well. I just wanted to also mention that the city has a great resource on their website. As Deputy Drake said, we have encinitasca.gov/ebikes. We've got a great video that Kevin and his team from the San Diego Bicycle Coalition helped us out with. So he'll speak a little bit more on that as well. And so I want to thank the Sheriff's Department, especially Deputy Drake, for the presentation and question and answer portion of the meeting. I'd like to now welcome Kevin Barros from the San Diego County Bicycle Coalition. The San Diego Bike Coalition has existed for more than 30 years. They teach dozens of classes to hundreds of people every year on bike-related topics, ranging from biking with kids, commuting by bike, bike repair, and e-bikes. Kevin has been the education programs manager at the Bike Coalition for the past 6 years and has become a certified cycling instructor for the past 15 years. He was in a bike trailer long before he could walk and once rode his bike across the United States of America. So I'd like to welcome Kevin, and I've got to know Kevin quite a bit over the last few months working on some of the e-bike safety things. So welcome, Kevin.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it. And I've got limited time here today, but I'm absolutely available for any of your bike related questions going forward. You can find me and the rest of our bike education resources on the San Diego County Bicycle Coalition website, which you can see here. And my favorite part for you all is right under resources, there's that little button there that says e-bike education. Look at that. And there's the great video. There's some of the graphics that you've already seen used today, including the specifics about different types of e-bikes and different types of bike access that they have. In addition to that, someone else mentioned the safety handouts. You can find these at various spaces around Encinitas, public spaces, libraries, and city buildings. And again, you can reach out to us for those in bulk. We're dropping them off at schools all over the place. We function all throughout San Diego County, from San Ysidro to Oceanside. So we're all over the place, but definitely have been focused in Encinitas for the past couple months, Encinitas and Carlsbad, because that seems to be the hot spot for e-bikes. So there's the most important people to get this information, I think, is the parents of the kids who are riding these bicycles. The second most important group of people to get this information is the kids themselves. And the way to get them that information is meet them where they are. and where they are is in school. So I can use your help if you're listening to me right now and hearing my voice, I'm talking to you, by signing up your kid's school for a free online bike education class. And look right here, e-bike safety assembly. That's the one you're looking for. So your school is the one that officially signs up, but I'm encouraging you to pass these resources along to them. They can sign up. It's a free class. It can happen virtually. That's how we've been doing it in the last couple of years, if that's what they're comfortable with. And it's been my job to not only teach these classes, but develop these classes and make them at least as entertaining as they are educational. We'll see. I generally get pretty good feedback on that. So we keep it light, we keep it fun. There's Bike Index. You saw that mentioned as a place to register your bike, and a nice big thick bike lock there. So these are designed for, well, originally high school and middle school kids, but we've gotten a whole bunch of different feedback recently about how, you know, even elementary school kids are using and getting more experience on different types of bikes, including e-bikes. And so they benefit from that information as well. So it's free. We can come to your child's school as soon as they sign up and ask us to come. We're there. It's fun, it's easy, it's free, and all of the above. For you, there are smart cycling classes. It's a specific type of class, and that's offered virtually as well as in person. And again, on our website, sdbikecoalition.org, just under events, all kinds of different things that are happening. And as mentioned, things about maintenance, things about where to ride, things about commuting by bicycle, things about biking with kids. How do I put a kid on the back safely? If I ride with my kid, should my kid be in front of me or should my kid be behind me? There's a specific answer to that question that we can answer when you attend that class. So a whole bunch of different information is here, and we have spent a long time making it as accessible as possible so that even if you are a car driver who isn't planning on riding a bike anytime soon, you are planning on driving a car near people that are riding their bicycles. And so we have information for you as well. Bike-friendly drivers classes, things that I should know, because as much as some people may want it one way or the other, e-bikes are not going away, and roads are designed for people, not just people in cars. Freeways are just for cars, but a street, a road is for people that use that street, and not everyone that uses that street is a person in a car. And so there's a way that we can all get along. Car drivers knowing what the rules of the road are, knowing what a sharrow is, knowing how many feet to pass a bicyclist, those are important things. And bicyclists knowing how to merge appropriately, knowing what their top speed is and how to regulate their speed in relation to the people around them, those are important things as well. So all these classes exist, all these classes have been tested out. Thousands and thousands of people have taken all kinds of different classes from us over the last many, many years. So I'm proud of the work that we've done. And it's I'm looking to you all to, if at the bare minimum, check out the information that we have on our website. As was mentioned, we made this great little video specifically about e-bike safety in Encinitas. It's less than 10 minutes long and covers what we think are the essentials, and also features some beautiful shots of stunning and picturesque Encinitas, California. So that's a fun part of it. But so at least look at that. And then if you'd like, not only can we come to your child's school, we can come to your workplace as well for free. So on that same iCommute page, underneath resources for employers, you can sign up and get more information about us coming to your place of business and talking to you at lunchtime about how to commute to bike to work safely. And I also love showing off this bike map. Look, that's you guys, that's Encinitas. And there's all these cool, blue means bike lanes all over the place. Lots of fun things to do. So I'd welcome your questions if you have any. sdbikecoalition.org, iCommuteSD.com are two great places to start to get more information about e-bikes and bicycle safety and all that good stuff in San Diego. So thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Kevin. I also just wanted to mention one of our local resources that we have here in Encinitas, which is Bike Walk Encinitas. It's at bikewalkencinitas.org is another great resource here in Encinitas. So in closing, I just want to thank Kevin from the San Diego County Bike Coalition. I want to thank the Captain Taft and Deputy Drake for being here, and for Deputy Drake to do such a great presentation. And then I also want to thank Dan King from the city of Solana Beach for doing this in collaboration with the city of Encinitas and the San Diego County Sheriff's Department. So I hope that everybody has a good night. I hope that you feel that you got a lot out of this presentation, and we will see you next time. Thank you.